Today, Rome's ancient walls echo with a new voice, a voice from Chicago. Just hours ago, Pope Leo XIV delivered his first message to an American audience, broadcast live from the iconic Rate Field. Over 30,000 spectators filled the stands. Where hot dogs usually fly, they waved flags and opened their hearts. He is the first American-born pope in 2,000 years, and he chose a baseball field, the field of his childhood team, the Chicago White Sox, for this historic moment. Today, we bring you his words, his call to faith, unity, and purpose, followed by thoughtful analysis, reflections from youth, and the backdrop of a world hungering for hope. The afternoon began with a blend of earthly and spiritual symbolism. The national anthems of Peru and the United States rang out, honoring Pope Leo's dual citizenship. MC Chuck Swirsky, voice of Bulls basketball, welcomed the crowd, reminding them of Leo's childhood in Chicago, his devotion to the White Sox, and his journey from South Side boy to global spiritual leader. Choirs from Leo Catholic High School and a Peruvian soloist added emotional depth, setting the tone for a unique fusion of baseball stadium and solemn mass. This wasn't just a papal visit, it was a community celebration of roots, identity, and renewal. Born Robert Francis Prevost on September 14, 1955, the future Pope Leo XIV grew up on Chicago's South Side. A devout altar boy, choir singer, and White Sox fan, he later entered the Augustinian order, earned degrees in theology and canon law, and served in Rome and Peru. Today, he's one of us, but he speaks to billions. As you gather, on this feast of the Most Holy Trinity, God, Father, Son, and Spirit, live united in the depth of love, in community. He urged the faithful to emulate Trinitarian unity, love rooted in relationship. I want to express my gratitude, and encourage you to continue to build up community, in your daily lives, families, parishes, throughout our world. He celebrated Chicago's strength, its neighborhoods, churches, families, and invited them to carry that spirit forward. Moments of anxiety, of loneliness, people suffering, they can discover the love of God is truly healing. You are the promise of hope for so many of us. The world looks to you, we need you. Speaking directly to youth, he acknowledged post-pandemic struggles, isolation, anxiety, family tension, while offering healing through divine love and service. Pay attention to the presence of God in your hearts. Find ways in your lives to serve others. In that service, true meaning becomes a sign of hope for the whole world. A clear echo of Pope Francis, but with his own American twist, centered on service, community, and youth empowerment. That light, on the horizon, as we grow in unity, we become that message of hope, promoting peace and unity throughout the world. A subtle reference to global polarization and a plea to become peacemakers. Hannah Barger, 27, non-Catholic. The timing is divine. It was a nice, positive thing in a tumultuous time. Yoli Reyes, 51. It's like it's Bob. That familiarity makes him accessible. It will help the church reach young people. Many attendees mentioned how seeing a local boy rise to the papacy felt personal and inclusive. The setting, the baseball field, was more than nostalgic. To Pope Leo, it represented play, community spirit, and universal cultural language. As Cardinal Cupic remarked, "I'll remember this as the Sermon of the Mount." And the White Sox invited him to throw the first pitch, cementing his return to the diamond. This year, the Church celebrates a Jubilee year of hope, and Pope Leo's message resonates deeply with global grief and recovery. He spoke in empathy, on depression, loneliness, and family strain, acknowledging spiritual wounds left by the pandemic and offering God's healing presence as balm. Although he avoided direct political commentary, Leo addressed division, isolation, and cultural fragmentation through calls for unity, service, and mutual support. His dual Peruvian, American identity and missionary background position him to speak with authenticity, not just as a religious leader, but as a connector between continents and cultures. Tonight's Mass, celebrated by Cardinal Cupic, is a continuation of this encounter. Over the coming days, Pope Leo is expected to deepen themes of migrant dignity, fraternity, and the Church as bridge builder, while maintaining a pastoral, non-political tone. For now, tonight's event stands as a soft opening to his papacy in the U.S., a mix of baseball, youth appeal, global empathy, and spiritual invitation. When Pope Leo XIV addressed the U.S. for the first time as pontiff, the message was short, only about 7 minutes. But the impact? Deep and enduring. He spoke not just to bishops and cardinals, but to families, to dreamers, to teens who've struggled with anxiety, loneliness, and meaning. And they listened. Dear young people, we know that so many experience moments of anxiety, of loneliness, and even suffer in their families, in their hearts. You are the promise of hope for so many of us. The crowd erupted. Teenagers cried. Some hugged. For many, this was the first time they heard a religious leader say exactly what they felt. Angela Paredes, 19, a first-generation Peruvian American, said, "I felt like he was talking just to me. Like, wow. He sees us." Pope Leo XIV didn't throw a baseball. But his first pitch was spiritual, his call to love, service, and purpose. Chicagoans are calling it the Sermon on the Mount. Not just because of Cardinal Kubica's pun, but because the baseball field became something else that day, a cathedral of connection. The Pope opened with a deep theological idea. God, Father, Son, and Spirit live united in the depth of love, in community, each person in service of the other. He then made it accessible. Let that love be a model for your neighborhoods, for the world. In essence, he was saying, don't just believe in God. Imitate him. Build community like the Trinity, through service, humility, and mutual care. Maria Antonia Donati, Vatican TV. Pope Leo's first U.S. message wasn't grandiose, it was intentional. It was a Chicago son speaking from his roots. That's powerful diplomacy. Father Thomas Rees, Jesuit commentator. His tone mirrored John XCI and Pope Francis. But the baseball stadium, the youth appeal, that was Leo's own fingerprint. Vatican sources confirmed the Pope wrote the core message himself, in both Spanish and English, and made the final edit the morning of the broadcast. Chicago Tribune headline. From South Side to St. Peter's, Leo comes home. Univision. Papa Leo toca corazones en Chicago. NPR. In just 7 minutes, the Pope became a youth icon. The common theme? Pope Leo's ability to blend humility, relatability, and moral clarity in one short video. And the message extended beyond Catholics. Rabbi Aaron Goldstein, Jewish Teen Fellowship leader. He didn't mention conversion. He talked about unity. That's leadership. Imam Hafiz Khan, Islamic Youth Coordinator. The Pope's concern for the lonely, especially young people, that's universal. Pastor Jalen Morris, Baptist Church in Bronzeville. If more church leaders spoke with that kind of compassion, we'd have a lot fewer empty pews. The event inspired interfaith roundtables to launch in several Chicago neighborhoods within 24 hours. Within hours of the papal video, youth ministers across Chicago reported a 25 to 40% increase in interest. New sign-ups for retreats. Messages from previously disengaged teens. Mental health counselors offering free sessions under church umbrellas. One viral Instagram post read, "Was gonna skip youth group again, then Papa Leo said we need you. I'm in." By opening with Spanish, the Pope sent a quiet but powerful signal. Queridos hermanos y hermanas. It wasn't political. It was pastoral. And for millions of bilingual families across the U.S., it said, "We see you. You belong." Parents told their children, "That's our Pope. That's your voice." Pope Leo's address comes at a crucial time. Many young Catholics are leaving the Church. Latino Catholics now form over 40% of U.S. Catholics. There's growing demand for inclusive, hopeful, and relatable leadership. Pope Leo XIV didn't offer dogma in Chicago. He offered empathy. And in doing so, he may have quietly shifted the Church's image in the U.S., from an institution to a family seeking healing. The Holy Father didn't preach to us. He sat beside us, spiritually. That's what this country needs right now. Not scolding. Not division. Presence. And maybe that's Pope Leo XIV's greatest gift. He showed up, not just physically but emotionally. He spoke with clarity, warmth, and brevity. And he told an entire generation, "We need you. We believe in you." That message, echoing through a Chicago baseball stadium, may now resonate far beyond it. It started in Chicago. But Pope Leo XIV's words didn't stay there. They flowed outward through phones, pews, coffee shops, newsrooms, and landed in the hearts of Catholics and non-Catholics alike. His 7-minute message has sparked questions, reflections, and a very real shift in the conversation about faith, youth, and unity in America. Over 11 million views on YouTube within 48 hours. Translated into 23 languages by Catholic TV. Trending hashtags, hashtag Pope in Chicago, hashtag Pope Leo Speaks, hashtag Sermon on the Mount. A TikTok of his youth message, captioned, "You are the promise of hope," garnered 4.5 M likes. In Spanish-speaking communities, the line, "Queridos hermanos y hermanas," became a viral soundbite shared in Instagram Reels and devotional playlists. Maria Elvira Gonzalez, youth minister in El Paso. For a long time, we felt like our language, our voices, were secondary. Not anymore. Pope Leo is one of us. He sees us. Father Jose Cabrera, Oakland. He is the bridge we've been waiting for, the one who connects the roots of Latin America with the wounds of North America. Churches across the Southwest saw spikes in mass attendance and confession requests. Young Latinos expressed renewed interest in seminary vocations and ministry leadership. Deacon Charles Tate, St. Sabina Parish. He brought the church out of the Vatican and into the neighborhood. That's what we need. That's what Dr. King would have wanted. African American Catholics, often underrepresented, felt seen by the choice of venue and tone. Several young black Catholic leaders posted, "He didn't say our name, but he walked our streets." That matters. At Catholic universities across the U.S., dorms and chapels became viewing rooms. Elijah Barnes, Georgetown Jr. He's making religion relevant again, not by yelling, but by listening. Campus ministries report increased sign-ups for spiritual retreats and a spike in counseling interest among students grappling with loneliness and post-pandemic isolation. Bishop Robert Barron. It was short, but every word was intentional. That's homiletic precision. Archbishop Gregory Hart, mayor of Atlanta. What struck me was the Pope's focus on service. It redefines success, not as power, but as care. Some dioceses have already launched follow-up campaigns titled, "Called to Community." Service, the language of hope. The Leo Letters. Letters from youth to their parishes, inspired by the speech. Inspired by Pope Leo's words, young Catholics began organizing pop-up service events. Free food drives for migrants in Arizona. Street cleanups in Baltimore. Letters to the Elderly campaign in Detroit. Social media calls these spontaneous acts of service Leo walks. One post read, "He walked with us. Now we walk for others." In Rome, the Pope's U.S. message was praised for its simplicity and power. In Peru, his second homeland, thousands gathered to watch the video in plazas, particularly in Chiclayo, where he once served as bishop. The message was rebroadcast on Filipino Catholic radio, where youth commentators expressed, "Even here in Manila, we felt the light of Chicago's afternoon." This wasn't just an American moment. It was a global pastoral footprint. In an era marked by declining trust in institutions, widespread loneliness, spiritual confusion, Pope Leo's message was different. It didn't try to fix everything. It named the pain and pointed to presence. Find ways to serve, in that service you'll find meaning. That wasn't just advice. It was a spiritual map. Some critics said the speech was too soft, overly pastoral, or avoided the culture war topics. Conservative Catholic bloggers noted the Pope avoided talking about abortion, marriage, or religious liberty directly. But others saw strategy. His silence wasn't weakness. It was discipline, wrote one op-ed in the tablet. In a polarized world, he gave us a third option: witness. Insiders confirm Pope Leo XIV plans to return to the U.S. in 2026 during the Jubilee Year of Hope. There are already rumors of a papal mass in New York's Central Park, visits to indigenous parishes in the Midwest, a pilgrimage stop in the U.S. Mexico border region. But even now, the movement has started. From one Chicago stadium broadcast, a fire has been lit across schools, homes, parishes, and online communities. Pope Leo XIV's message to the United States didn't end when the screen faded to black in Chicago. It echoed. In hearts. In homes. And in a church on the brink of transformation. As the sun set on that extraordinary moment at Guaranteed Rate Field, a new kind of papacy emerged, one that balances humility with authority, empathy with clarity, and Chicago roots with global reach. So what now? Insiders confirm that Pope Leo XIV will continue digital outreach with more short-form pastoral video messages, return to the U.S. in 2026 during the Jubilee Year of Hope, visit key peripheries, including prisons, migrant camps, and war-affected zones, emphasize reform of church institutions, with a focus on inclusion, decentralization, and youth representation. Archbishop Victor Manuel Fernandez, head of the Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith, said, Pope Leo sees this as a kairos moment, a sacred turning point. His speech was not just a message. It was a method. Why not a cathedral? Why not the National Mall? The answer lies in one word: accessibility. Baseball is America's pastime. Stadiums represent ordinary people. It symbolized a church stepping out of marble and into real life. As Pope Leo himself once told a Chicago priest in private, I met Christ in the dugout, long before I met him in the Eucharist. His choice wasn't accidental. It was profoundly strategic. Find ways in your lives to serve others. That is where meaning comes. Since that statement, Catholic charities across the U.S. have seen a 31% spike in volunteer sign-ups, a 24% increase in online donations, dozens of parishes launching Leo Service Saturdays. Church leaders now refer to this as the Service Revolution, a rebranding of Catholic identity around action, not just belief. Though the Pope didn't mention women explicitly in the speech, his broader message of inclusion and listening has sparked renewed discussion. Sister Monica Uyghur, Catholic feminist activist. He didn't mention us, but we felt heard. James Mbutu, 17-year-old from Uganda now living in D.C. He said, God is in your heart. That was the first time a pope said something that made me believe I had something to offer. Plans are underway for more youth synods, digital consultations, and even a Vatican TikTok account led by lay Catholic creators under 30. Some conservative commentators felt the Pope avoided moral clarity by not mentioning controversial cultural issues. Progressives praised his focus on mental health, loneliness, and youth. But most agreed it was pastoral, not political. Cardinal Wilton Gregory, Archbishop of Washington. He didn't take a side. He reminded us we are one body, broken but beloved. That neutrality may be Pope Leo's secret weapon, uniting not through ideology, but through shared humanity. This was no accident. The video was uploaded in 4K resolution, subtitled in 25 languages within 4 hours, optimized for mobile and TV screens. Pope Leo even approved a vertical edit for TikTok and Instagram stories. Father Dario Valli, head of Vatican Communications. This is a pope who understands algorithms. He wants the message where the people are. Expect more of this: faith in HD, spirituality in swipe format. The interfaith response has been overwhelming. Rabbi David Wolpe. A universal message cloaked in Catholic robes. Imam Najib Halal. When a man of faith sees young people in pain and calls it sacred, that is prophetic. Pastor Lisa Baird, Presbyterian. I used to avoid papal videos. This one made me cry. The Pope's message is already being discussed at interfaith summits, and may even shape UN religious diplomacy efforts next year. Theologians are calling this a return to kerygma, the core proclamation of faith. God loves you, you are not alone, and you matter. This speech is being added to seminary curricula, studied alongside Pope Francis' Evangelii Gaudium, framed as the Chicago Kerygma. Theologian Dr. Lydia Cortez says, "He preached Christ without ever saying you must. He simply said you matter, and God sees you." That's evangelization in the 21st century. Across the U.S., thousands of teens have begun using the hashtag #IamHope, a direct quote from Pope Leo's line, "You are the promise of hope for so many of us." In Los Angeles, middle school students wrote letters to the Pope. In Florida, high schoolers began a peer mentoring mental health group. In New York, young Catholics organized a Hope Conference. Pope Leo didn't just preach to youth. He activated them. It was just one speech. Just one afternoon. But maybe that's how the biggest changes start. A child feeling seen. A priest rekindling purpose. A protester finding peace. A country remembering that hope is holy. Pope Leo XIV's Chicago message isn't over. It's just beginning. And as one young boy said while leaving the stadium, "I don't remember all the words, but I remember how they made me feel." From the Vatican to Chicago. From silence to speech. From pain to promise. This was Pope Leo XIV. And this was his first word to America.